Up next in opening his diary is the SABC News Economics Reporter, Katlego Legodi, just revealing what the entire team will be pursuing in terms of the main storylines in the coming week. He's in studio with me once again. Katlego, good afternoon. Thank you. So let's start with GDP. The numbers came out recently. We expect that they will continue to feature in the conversations as well as the issues that are driving the markets going into the new week.
Yeah, good afternoon to Lasizwe and of course to our viewers at home. We're still seeing the economy is still looking at, or a lot of people looking at the economy in terms of the announcements that came through from Stats SA of the 0.1% growth. Yeah. A lot of people still looking at that to say it was not growth per se in terms of what the expectations would be. Remember, as we stepped into the year 2025, there were those targets that were set to really play themselves out, and they were looking at about 2% of economic growth. We don't seem to be moving in that direction, and it's a cause for concern looking at the fact that this is what the Government of National Unity punted when they came into the space to say that we're going to put apex economic growth as what we're going to be working on in ensuring that we move the country. So we see a lot of people looking at that to say, how do we see that actually impacting the economy going forward? We saw the South African Reserve Bank reversing or in terms of what they had put there as a 1.7% target point. They were looking at that being economic growth for the year 2025. They've since revised that to 1.4%. So you can tell that the economy is not doing well the way that it should. There's a lot of uncertainty around what has been playing out in terms of the budget that has been tabled. Just this week, we'll see the debate playing out in Parliament where the 3.0 is concerned. A lot of people looking at where then we find ourselves, as well as an economy looking at the trade war that has been playing itself out. So we see all of these shocks affecting where we find ourselves here as an economy. And as we go into the week, a lot of people will be looking at that to say, do we see economic growth? The World Bank, for instance, the IMF, they've also since revised their economic outlook for the globe and even for South Africa. So all of us just looking to see how then that plays itself out. But notable was some economists that were looking at, analysts that were looking at the economy in terms of where we started. It does look like things are starting to look up. Some of those shocks that came through the tariff announcements from the United States have started to subside a bit. So they're looking at least the momentum picking up going into the last part of the year in terms of how then we'll see the economy picking up.
All of that, though, is not going to be helped around by the uncertainty between the United States and China. 1 minute it looks like there's a sense of a détente, we're starting to talk and we'll have an agreement. The next minute it escalates again. So there's a toing and froing. You'll be watching that as well. Yeah,
there was a lot of optimism when we saw that meeting play out in Geneva, Switzerland, where a lot of people were looking at these two big economies finding each other. So we find ourselves back, from where we started, looking at them toing and froing here. So we see a little bit of backtracking, or what they are accusing each other of is backtracking on certain agreements that they had made when they met, in Switzerland. So it does look like it's back to the drawing board where China and the United States is concerned. But a lot of people just looking as well at some of these tariff announcements coming through from Donald Trump. Just last week, he announced that the steel and aluminium will be slapped by 50% of those tariffs. It was 25%. So a lot of people just looking at how that is going to affect emerging economies like us here at home. So it's still about Donald Trump. He is he's been the story for the first part of the year, and he continues to still be the story now.
Tell me about it.
But a lot of people also just looking at how we're navigating this 90-day pause that we saw play itself out. It's still uncertain as we speak right now.
And he proudly just mouths off the various percentages and tariffs that are in place as if it's just, a game of numbers, really. That 50%, he talked about it. Then he said we have a baseline of 10%, then an added one for the fentanyl flow from China into the United States. So it's a bit of a mess. Let's talk agriculture. It's an important sector in our economy. And always, every quarter when the numbers come out, we always, I guess we rush to see what did agriculture do. At play at the moment is this foot and mouth disease outbreak, and it seems to be a growing concern.
It's a growing concern, really, when you look at some of the, revelations that are making themselves or playing themselves out. Just last week, we saw the Minister of Agriculture, John Steenhuisen, announcing that they are now going to ramp up vaccination where that is concerned, because the facility, Current Beef, there was a discovery there, and they're also just worried about the movements of some of these stocks, feed lots, and they're looking at ensuring that at least they tighten measures to ensure that there's no spread. Those in the industry also worried about what this means. I mean, we are the largest exporter of beef as South Africa, going into Zimbabwe, going into Botswana, going into other nations as well. They too had to relook how then they're trading with us since that announcement. But we see the minister saying that it's all hands on deck. They'll be rolling out a large vaccination drive. They have acquired vaccines from Botswana at the tune of 72 million rand. So he's looking at that coming through to help in the fight in terms of vaccinating at a large scale. It's not just that. There's also avian flu that is playing itself out, and a lot of people worried about what is going to happen where this sector is concerned. A very important sector, looking at the numbers. They were, the ones to really laud where that 0.1 percentage point growth is concerned in the first quarter of the year. So agriculture, we need to get it right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people saying that it does really affect the economy when we see these uncertainties, which is why South Africa has been coming through, and the minister has been coming through to say that we are vaccinating at large scale. It will start in the KwaZulu-Natal province. It will move to other provinces as well. But he's also asking the players in this space to say, please, can you adhere to some of the regulations? Just this week, we'll be taking new regulations to the cabinet in terms of tightening measures around control, around auctions as well. He's worried about what happens at auctions to say that we need to ensure that we contain this. If we don't contain it, it will be a disaster, which is why he's also working with those in the industry and calling upon them to say, please help us in containing this foot and mouth.
Katlego, thank you for that. Quite extensive. So there you have it. In terms of that story, it does seem that we do need to get a handle on that story, because a lot is at stake in as far as our agriculture is concerned.